Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm introducing the group of authors researching the problem of improving students' performance of distant learning. I'll be speaking about the flipped or inverted classroom. So my topic is flipping the aviation English class for distant learning, experience from the field. The first slide. Since early spring of 2019, the epidemiological situation in our country as well as in the whole world made traditional forms of education impossible. The disturbance caused by the COVID-19 pandemic is qualified by the United Nations Organization as the largest disruption of the education systems in history, affecting nearly 1.6 billion of learners in more than 190 countries and all continents. The created conditions have exacerbated the need for distant online learning at various educational levels in Ukraine, including classes of Aviation English and National Aviation University. Slide 2. It is widely known that foreign language acquisition requires time, practice, and patience. For the last decades, learning strategies as a way to make language learning more effective have become a field of research for many scholars. New language proficiency requirements implemented by the International Civil Aviation Organization in 2004 were followed by several theoretical and practical measures to improve the aviation English teaching process. Ensuring a high level of education for students of National Aviation University, it is urgent task that cannot be accomplished using only traditional teaching methods. Slide 3. To prepare students for foreign language communication in their future professional field, the modern educational process at the university should take into account both the trends in the development of science and technology and the requirements of society for the quality of educational services. The objective of our research to verify experimentally the efficiency of the flipped classroom approach used in the process of online teaching aviation English. Slide 4. The hypothesis of our research. The introduction of flipped classroom approach into the language English for specific purposes course, Aviation English Distant Learning, can help students to improve their performance. Slide 5. Flipping the classroom is an exciting topic in educational research of the last 2 decades, but there is a lack of scholars' consensus on what exactly the flipped or inverted classroom is. There is no single model for it, and there is a limited amount of research on its effectiveness. As you can see, Santikhan and Vichadi identify it this way. It involves blended learning, a combination of face-to-face interaction in the classroom with distance learning. Bishop and Vergala believe it is an educational technique that consists of 2 parts: interactive group learning activities inside the classroom and direct computer-based individual instruction outside the classroom. Brame defines it as the approach which involves student in knowledge acquisition of material before a class section, leaving class time for the integration of knowledge through the application, analysis, or synthesis-based activities. Oxford Dictionary identifies it this way. It is a method of teaching in which students study new material at home. Slide 6. The above stated allows us to note that a flipped classroom or inverted learning is an approach to teaching and learning with a special instructional strategy. First, students gain new information outside of class through pre-recorded lecture videos or media and or literature reading, receive instructions on content clarifications through homework. And the second, in-class time is devoted to practice language, discussions, exercises, projects, and supplementary explanations. Special strategy involving. For the first, teachers are planning in detail what will happen in each environment, in class and out of class. For the second, They are selecting a variety of appropriate activities that address the needs of all learners according to the students' learning styles. Next, teachers are determining how to integrate tasks and activities in both environments. For the last, the use of learning management system is necessary, connecting the outside and inside parts like a bridge and presenting all activities in an organized way. Slide 7. The participants of our study were 41 students of the second year of study at the National Aviation University speciality 272 Aviation Transport at the time of research. The third semester of 2020-2021 English for specific purposes lessons were part of the official university curriculum. According to the curriculum, 2-hour classes were held distantly once a week. Out of 24 participants, 17 were females and 24 were males who were ranged from 17 to 19 years. Also, the students were registered in 2 different groups, control and experimental, matched by English language proficiency level. The research was conducted by the same teacher who followed the same procedure and used the same materials for questioning and evaluating students' achievements in learning. In the process of the experiment, there were used the same educational materials. Slide 8. In our work, we identified 5 steps. Step first, a detailed plan of work for in-class and out-of-class activities according to the official university curriculum was made. Step 2, available resources were estimated, identified sources for obtaining new materials and ways to create their materials. Step 3. A variety of appropriate activities that address the needs of all students was selected. Step 4. A learning management system connecting the outside and inside class time and including students' knowledge and skills assessment system was chosen. Step 5. Research questions were determined. Slide 9. Research questions. The first one, to explore the concept of the flipped classroom in the process of English for specific purposes of Aviation English in the Technical University in distant learning. The second research question, to examine students' performance throughout a semester of distant learning in a traditional and flipped environment. Research question 3, to identify students' impressions of Aviation English course distant learning at National Aviation University. The next, the 10th slide. During the experiment preparation, we use the ideas expressed by the scientists whose papers we analyzed in chapter literature review in our interpretation. Pre-recorded video information was integrated with in-class activities alongside the integrated elements of technology. Learning lectures were put under the control of the students so they could be viewed more than once, practically as many times as necessary, while class time was devoted to the application of concept learned through the lecture. A pre-class quiz on the lecture material was used systematically. During the study, students were suggested active and interactive learning exercises, performed language quizzes and tests. At the end of the semester, they presented a project on one of the mastered topics. To use mixed method research in convergent design, we collected quantitative language performance results and qualitative questionnaire answers datasets. Next, we merged the results of the data of 2 data analyses to compare and validate one set of results with the other. Then we integrated information for better understanding the problem of using flipped classroom in English for specific purposes class, Aviation English, through online distant learning. Slide 11. In the control group, the sufficient level before the experiment put 75%, which was almost equal to the score in the experimental group, which was 76. According to the results of the experiment, the differences in the levels of students' language competence positive changes are not so significant, only 5%. The decrease in the number of students with an insufficient level of language competence, mark C, was 20% before the experiment and 20% after the experiment, which was less significant compared to the experimental group. Besides, students with mark D score 5% before and 0 after the experiment. Slide 12. In the experimental group, after the experiment, the percentage of students with mark A increased to 52%. The difference reached 14%. The percentage of students with B marks equaled 38 before and 42, almost 43 after the experiment. The decrease constituting almost 5%. The percentage of students in the experimental group with C and D marks, which indicated an insufficient level of professional language competence development, decreased sufficiently, C from 14 to 4%, with a difference of almost 10%, and D from 9% to 0. The total degrees of students with a low level of language competence is 19%, while the total increase of student success is almost 20%. Slide 13. Discussion of the result of the experiment made possible to answer. The first research question. Students gain first exposure to new information on the educational topic outside of class. They have presented it through the pre-recorded lecture videos and other media and all literature reading, while in-class time is devoted to language practice, discussions, exercises, projects, and supplementary explanations. The second research question. Students' performance before and after the experiment proves that the flipped classroom approach application had a positive effect on students' level of communicative competence. Research question 3. It indicates increasing students' motivations to study through self-mastery of content at home. Students like taking responsibility for their study and appreciate the way to individualize the way of learning. Slide 14. Extreme transition to distance learning has created problems due to insufficient technical equipment, teachers and students' unpreparedness to work in new conditions caused by lack of training. At the same time, the new learning format has provided a wide range of opportunities and prospects for change and improvement. Technologically enriched learning environments in modern university in the appropriate format offered students from experimental group better learning opportunities. Correctly selected course materials meeting the educational objects ensured a positive learning income objective. It is proved by the results of the experiment. Students from the experimental group have better results in professional language competence development than students from the control group. Experimental group plus 19%, whereas control plus 5%. Results of the question reveal that students positively evaluated the application of the approach. We have positive answers more than 106 exactly, while the total of negative increase in students' motivation to study through self-mastery of content at home, taking responsibility for their answers, is 12, and neutral is 27. Opportunities offered by approach, asynchronous delivering of information, study and appreciate the way to individualize the way of learning, possibility to check the content understanding, a realized opportunity to receive a high mark for the work done, focusing on the most important aspects of the course, are improved by the students. As a result of the experiment, we concluded that in the context of distance learning, the flipped lessons approach is acceptable for mastering the Aviation English course. For the successful implementation of distant learning, the instructor has to be ready to use active and interactive teaching methods, to promote the formation of students' learning style to work online, to master the capabilities of the online learning platform and the necessary software. To manage the course effectively, the instructor should develop student skills to stick to deadlines, use tools for students' encouragement, to access students' papers on time. We believe that this approach deserves a further comprehensive study. And we have to admit some downsides of the approach. The model of flipping the class should be explained to students beforehand. Nevertheless, some of them can feel uncomfortable and lose much time and efforts. Besides, this approach is the instructor's time and efforts consuming, especially the process of learning information searching, adopting, and lectures recording. Furthermore, the instructor must be skilled enough. That is all. Thank you for your attention.